Everyone, good afternoon. Hope you all are doing well. So today I'm interacting with you all as a part of this short-term training program. So I'm happy to be part of this program, and I would like to convey my thanks to Dr. Surya Prakash, Principal of Al Shifa Pharmacy College, and Dr. Dilip, Professor and Head of Pharmacy Practice, Al Shifa Pharmacy College, for providing this opportunity to interact with you all. It's a great pleasure to be part of this meeting. So as already introduced about myself, I'm Raghuram Shetty. I'm a pharmacologist by education. So I have around 16 years of experience in different companies, and I've worked in clinical research and as well as medical writing domains. And so I'm with Freyer at this point of time, and I'm working as general manager, and I'm with Freyer around 6 years. So now, I would like to take you all through the medical writing related aspects and its prospects for pharmacy students. So let me share my screen, and then from there we'll start our discussion. So I hope you all will enjoy this session and make utilize of the learnings from this. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, so hope you all can see my screen now. So today's topic is medical writing and its prospects. So one more thing I'd like to communicate: if you have any questions or if you want to discuss anything more about any topic mentioned in this section, so you can stop me and then you can start asking questions. So or else, alternatively, you can ask questions at the end. I'm open for any of the methods. So hope you can see my screen now. Okay, so about this slide, we have already spoken enough. So let's go with what is medical writing. So here, you all will be knowing what is medical writing, but so there are several types of definitions have been, developed, or several types of medical writing definitions have been used based on the different scenarios. But I would like to, keep you aware of some of the important on a regulatory perspective, how we consider and what are the different points which we covered in the definition of medical writing. I would like to take you through. So medical writing is communicating the complex scientific data in a clear, concise, credible, complete, and compelling manner. So we call this as a concept of 5C. So that I have already explained to you. So the communication of the scientific data should be clear way, and it should be concise, it should be credible in the sense it should have some evidences, complete the information, although it is concise, but it should be complete and compelling manner. So this way we define medical writing. And it hello. Okay. So medical writing is also an art and as well as science, we say. So why it is called as science and art? So because it requires an understanding of medical or pharmaceutical sciences or technical sciences. So hello, can you hear us, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I was getting some background noise, so hence that I asked. Okay, so as I was explaining, it is both science and art. So it requires understanding of medical and pharmaceutical sciences. So that's the reason we call it as science. And it also requires an aptitude of writing, means that requires a style of writing or a science of writing. So that's why it is called as an art also. And this medical writing is also an essential activity. So at every stage of drug development, you would know the drug development steps, right? Discovery, preclinical, clinical, post-authorization. So in all those steps, the medical writing is very important part. So hence we call it as an essential and vital activity required at every stage of drug development. So then comes to American Medical Writers Association. It's an association which is specifically gives a definition for medical writing. So medical writing involves the development and production of print or digital documents that deal specifically with medicine or healthcare. So they are working towards only the medical writing part and group of medical writers. So hence they also defined it as in this way. It involves the development or production of print or digital documents that talks about medicine or healthcare. So, and also like I have one more definition. Medical writing is a profession of communication of medical, scientific, and health information to varied audience. So this part is very, very important. Okay, so the concept of varied audience is nothing but the medical writer would be writing the documents for different set of people. So one could be regulatory agencies, another one could be a prescriber, means doctor, and the patient and public. So that way, like we have to tune our language in such a way that it is suitable for every audience. So the document, based on the document objectives. So for example, I'll give you one example of clinical study protocol. When we are writing a protocol, so our intention to communicate all these standards, which are the information available in protocol to an investigator. So whoever is a clinical investigator or principal investigator, for them we are going to give these instructions. So our language is little different. And when we are writing a CSR study report, then we are again talking about investigator or regulatory agents. When we are writing about patient leaflet information, so this particular information is relevant to patient alone. And when we are writing, for example, any of the, what you can say, scientific information, so that would be for a prescriber or any scientist group, so that in the same way, when we are writing to different audience, the tone of language and the scientific information and its complexity should be varied based on the audience. So that is what we are going to define with regards to audience as well about medical writing. So coming to the types of medical writing. So this is well debated topic. I mean, like there are several classifications available for medical writing. None of the classifications are, what you can say, perfect, or no one is right, no one is wrong. So that way, so there are several types. Ones like we have classified here based on the suitability for corporate perspective. So I believe like the medical writings can be classified as clinical writing, non-clinical writing, regulatory writing, safety writing, medical marketing, scientific writing, and medical education. So these are the major types of medical writings which covers most of the types of writing. So let us understand more about each type of writing. See, for example, so how we can understand more about these writings would be the type of documents we deliver in such specific type. For example, clinical writing. So we say in clinical writing, we write clinical study protocols, clinical study reports, that we call it as CSRs, and then CSR shells. CSR shell is a sub part of the CSR wherein we will be writing this particular content when the study is undergoing. And then we also call it as TLS, top line summaries, and investigator brochures, informed consent forms, and case report forms. So these all like the documents which we write for the conduct of study, before the conduct, during the conduct, and after the conduct of study, we classify it as a clinical writing, because these all are surrounding towards the clinical study. So hence we classify it as a clinical writing. Then comes regulatory writing. So regulatory writing means these documents are essentially required to be submitted to regulatory agencies. And these documents are not related to one particular clinical study. So they are aggregate documents. Aggregate documents means when during the development of the product, we conduct different type of studies. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 studies we conduct. And altogether we write a summaries. Altogether we write an overview. such kind of documents we call it as regulatory writings. For example, you can see here clinical overview. I have given a short forms that CO is nothing but clinical overview, CS is nothing but clinical summary, and we sometimes write a justification document. Any specific study which we do not need to conduct, so then we write a justification. Why are we not conducting the study? So that justification document also comes here. And then briefing document. So when we are explaining any specific information to agency, we call it as briefing document writing. So I'm planning to conduct a particular study. So then I would like to have some guidance from the agency. So how to brief them, how to explain them what is the scenario I'm going through. So that kind of documents, we call it as briefing documents. And there are two more specific documents called ISE and ISS. These are integrated summary of efficacy and integrated summary of safety. These also very complex documents, and which would be explained by using number of studies which we conducted on efficacy or safety perspective. So these all we categorize under regulatory writing. So then comes to non-clinical writing. So non-clinical writing is similar to clinical writing, and where we are conducting animal studies, during that time we use non-clinical writing terminology. So here also you can see non-clinical overview, non-clinical summaries, exposure calculations, non-clinical protocols, non-clinical study reports, all comes under non-clinical writing as a subtype of medical writing. So these are generally conducted well before the clinical studies. As you know, like after the discovery stage, the non-clinical or animal studies would be performed, that we also call it as preclinical stage, and after that clinical stage will come. Then comes your safety writing. So safety writing in general, so will happen after the registration of the product or after the marketing authorization is granted. So in this case, like what kind of documents we write? We write safety update report, like periodic safety update report, periodic benefit risk evaluation reports. And one of the document which may be written before the approval is called as DSUR, that is developmental safety update reports. And we also have RMPs, risk management plans. We also have safety annual reports. And then CASRs is nothing but the Canadian annual summary reports, like those are specific for Canada submissions. And PADRs is also a periodic adverse drug event reactions reports, like these are specific for US. And now we have an ICSRs, that is individual case safety reports and narratives. So these all grouped under safety writing. In general, they happen after the marketing authorization, except DSUR. So then comes your next type of documents or a type of medical writing is medico-marketing. So medico-marketing is something also called as promotional writing. So promotional writings where you have a drug, you got the approval of the drug and you wanted to promote it. So then what kind of documents you write? You write monographs, like those monographs can be a disease monograph or a drug monograph. You can write brochures, you can write leave behind literatures, those are also called as LBLs, and then scientific and health magazines, posters, newsletters, training manuals, job aids, web content, question and answer books. So these kind of generally the documents written to a prescriber, and you are explaining that how your drug is better than the existing drug, or is there any specific advantage over the existing drug, or it could be a cost effective, could be efficacy oriented, could be convenience, like what you can say, you have a what you can say oral drug instead of a parenteral drug. So parenteral drug is an invasion method. So in that way, like you do not need to get injected every day. Instead, you can use this tablet. So such kind of things you would be making it through the medical marketing. And then comes your scientific writing, wherein scientific writing, most of us would have been aware of it, like where we write manuscripts, we write abstracts, we write full articles, synopses, editorials, and then review articles, virginal articles, short papers, case reports, and as well as letter to editor and personal views, and many other meta-analysis. So such kind of documents which we write, when we write those things, categorized under scientific writing, where there are no specific guidelines from the regulatory agency, or such kind of guidelines won't be available, but however journal specific guidelines would be required to be followed while writing such kind of documents. So then comes to last one, that is medical education, wherein all your textbooks, continued medical education, that we also called as CME documents, programs, e-learning modules, and patient education materials would comes under this kind of category. So these are the different types of medical writings, and where in each type what kind of documents we write, that comes under this particular slide. So let me give a pause here. So is anyone have any questions or comments? Okay, so let me move ahead. Prerequisites of medical writer. So what are the requirements for anyone to become a medical writer? So familiarity with medical concepts and terminology. This is most important because you should know what are medical concepts and what are the different terminologies involved in medical writing. That drives, that's the first and foremost prerequisite for a medical writer. And the second one being an academic qualification. Yes, these are interrelated. The first one is interrelated with second one, like academic qualifications, like you could be a doctor, you could be a pharmacist, or you could be a biomedical sciences graduate. So then minimal qualification is required. And ability to write. So it's not that if you know about medical concepts, terminology, and you have a qualification, that's not enough to become a medical writer. You should know how to write and how to communicate. That's very, very important concept apart from your knowledge. So then comes to adaptability to communicate scientific information to the target audience. I have already covered this part, like, different audience will need a different way of writing and different way of communication. The same information you will be communicating. If I use lot of medical jargon to a patient would not understand any information. So that, like, you have to retune the information without altering the meaning of the information and make it adaptable to your patient or target audience. That is very, very important skill set required for medical writer. And then some degree of command over the language, absolutely, because most of the medical information is available in English. Okay, although later it may be converted into the local languages, but however, the command over English would also be very important parameter when you are choosing for this career. And then ability to express and present information clearly and succinctly. Yes, you need to understand how to present this information. Some information can be written in a text format, some information can be in a tabular format, some information can be in figures and tables format. So that way you should know how to present specific information, so that helps the audience to clearly understand. That's the major prerequisites of the medical writer. So no one will have all these qualities when they take up the particular thing. Like, few of the candidates are very good at concepts, and few of them are very good at writing or a language skill set. But like as you grow upon in the ladder, then definitely will adopt all these characteristics to a medical writer. Then mostly qualifications preferred. Like, I just wanted to clear it, clarify here, like there are several people from different background are getting into medical writing field, but however, like, what is the preference in the organization, or what is the preference in the corporate world is like pharmacy is one of the important domain wherein most of the medical writer, like if you say that around 70 to 80% of the medical writer will be from pharmacy background. And then you have a medicine like MBBS or MD doctors also part of the medical writing domain. Veterinary doctors, specifically veterinary doctors would be hired, or veterinary doctors prefer to be part of the non-clinical writing because where they understand more about that non-clinical concepts. And then biomedical sciences. So it can be anybody who is from microbiology, biochemistry, or any other relevant like biotechnology. All those people also can be part of the medical writers. So however, like as I said, many people from pharmacy would be part of the medical writing domains. So sometimes any other people also can be part of the medical writers, like engineering candidates, like who have biotechnology background can also be part of medical writing. But the percentage is very less, and people who opt for this medical writing this thing from engineering are very, very rare. So that's the reason I have just covered under the others category. So the minimum qualification even in pharmacy would be bachelor's of pharmacy, and you can join after B Pharm or you can join after PhD, but it all depends upon what kind of job available and what kind of skill set and the educational level is required matters. But however, there are openings from B Pharm to PhD level. Okay, so let me go to the different skill sets required for any medical writer. So this is very, very important, slides, and going through, like, we'll discuss about each and every skills in little more detail, but overall skill set required for medical writer. So I think as you all, faculty of, Al Shifa and any other colleges, so now you can identify someone in your, department or in your, like, who can fit all these kind of requirements, so that, you can start developing them or giving them medical writing as an opportunity or a career development prospect. So what kind of, that can be done after knowing this skill sets required for this. So first, let's go with, the domain knowledge is the very, very important concept. And after that, language skills, then comes research skills, analytical skills, ethical skills, personal skills, and as well as IT skills. So these are the 7 different skill sets required for any medical writer. And so it's very important to have them so they can shine in this particular career. So let's come to, step 1, that is domain knowledge. So I have already covered a little bit about it: medical, scientific, and therapeutic area expertise. So therapeutic area expertise could be, very specific, like somebody who has done their project in oncology related, who has done in, any other respiratory domain, or who has done in any gastrointestinal domain, or any metabolic disorders domain. So like that, the therapeutic area expertise also very important. Why? Because, when we are supporting any projects, so clients or anybody who are giving that kind of projects to us will require to have a therapeutic area expertise candidate. So that really helps in developing such kind of documents which are required for submission to a very well organized and regulatory agencies like US FDA, EMEA, or any other specific organizations. So this is one important aspect. Then comes to the pharmacology. Understanding of pharmacology helps very well, because pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics are the major important 2 parameters where we need to understand about a drug. And then drug development process, yes, from discovery stage to approval stage. So that domain knowledge also very, very, very important. And efficacy and safety. So what does efficacy means? How to identify? What are the parameters for each therapeutic area? How we have to identify them? So that also helps us. And then safety is foremost important aspect, because patient safety is the one important aspect any agency considers or anyone to be considered. And then regulatory guidelines and requirements. This is most important. Like when we are, when we are completing academics, we are not having much more exposure to this regulatory guidelines, but we need to have this particular part. Maybe, we would have read some guidelines, but not up to the requirement level for acting as a medical writer. So we need to understand what are the regulatory guidelines and requirements for any medical writer. And then statistical expertise, very, very important. So statistics is one of the niche skill where many people will not have it, or like this is very, very important to understand and interpret the data given to you, because many a times we would be working on summarizing the data from literature, some are understanding the CSR, and then writing the integrated document. So in that time, understanding statistics in a thorough way is very important. So statistical expertise is also very, very important for part of the domain knowledge. Then comes to medical terminology. Of course, like medical terminology will have it as you are qualified, but you need to update yourself on every time, so that it's better, and you will have a very familiar idea about this. Then comes to language skills. Yes, with regards to language, grammar, spelling, and punctuation. So very important, because nowadays, even because of the language skills, also like some of the small submission has been rejected by FDA. So what we call refuse to receive, there is some specific guideline called as RTR. That RTR is nothing but refuse to receive. So even small mistakes also has been counted by the agency to understand. So that's the reason language skills are very important. And then while convincing the clients and while convincing the regulatory agency, this is the important skill. And conveying your message in conciseness means like the same concept can be written in 2 pages and it may require 10 pages as well. So that's the reason how well you concise the information and make it meaningful. That's very important. That skill is required. Then ability to adapt. This I have already told. Ability to adapt writing based on the audiences. You should know what is the objective of this document. It's not that you just received a request and you start writing and then submitting it. That's not correct. You need to understand, so why are we writing this document? Who are going to read this? What is the impact of this document? Then you will understand how to write this document. So that is very important skill set. And sentence structure. Sentence structure should also be very, very good, accurate, and it should not be too lengthy. So these are the 3-4 important parameters which are required. So I'm just telling you here only the writing skills, but even verbal skills are very, very important. Why? Because you will be communicating with multiple people. So during the writing process, you would be communicating with multiple people, and then where you need to know how you have to present yourself, how you have to ask question, and how you have to convey the message, and then understand from them and get the answer from them is not that easy task, because the contributors would be from different places. Maybe somebody is in US, somebody is in Europe, and you will need to communicate with them. You will need to understand their requirement and their pronunciation, their speed or level of English understanding. All those matters a lot in the language skills. Okay, then comes to the research skills. So research skills, in the sense I'm talking about something different rather than research what we do at the bench, right? Here the literature search and review. So you need to know how to do a literature search. Most of the postgraduate people will be aware of this post-graduation and PhD because they would have done a thesis, and while doing the thesis they would have done literature search. But for B.Pharm level, probably they would not aware of this. Maybe they would need some kind of training on this. And then literature search and review is one of the important, and up to date with current research data. So the topic what you are working on, are you up to date with this particular research data? That is very, very important. And how to find and where to find the data, that is also most important. Maybe we would be aware of only the what you can say freely available websites, freely available databases, but when we come to the corporate, there are multiple such databases would be available. We would need to go through all those things and how to find data. So that kind of information, maybe little bit about this would really help. And verifying that information available is suitable for dissemination. So this is also very, very important. Whatever information which we are getting in the free domain, is it really good for or suitable for dissemination? Dissemination is nothing but spreading across. So wherein is it really good, or it is really valid or credible information what I'm disseminating is very, very important, and that particular part you need to identify. Then comes analytical skills. It's not that only literature search and review is important, and the interpretation of scientific data and reusing it is also very, very important. Like you need to understand what information you have segregated, what information you have collected, is it making sense, and how to interpret that scientific data is important. Understanding and interpretation of statistics, this is also like one of the important in analytical skills, because statistics is different for different type of scenarios. It's not always we use only the p-value. We use sometimes p-value, sometimes another parameter, maybe hazard ratio or whatever it is. Such kind of things we need to understand. If we write it in one liner, like hazard ratio is less than 1, so what is the interpretation of that, we need to understand. So that is very important. And presentation of data, so it's very important to give a visual appeal. So once you see the document, like it should be appealing and it looks very good. So that is what like the skill set required. And attention to detail. So very, very important. Attention to details, like the consistency. It could be in one page you are writing 24 subjects have been enrolled in this study. In another page it became 42. So that is not technically not correct. So I mean, the reader can understand whether it is 24 or 42. So they don't know. So that's the reason attention to details is very, very important. And, you need to concentrate on that kind of analytical skills are required. Then ethical skills. This is foremost important skill, because, we are working with the patient safety, and at the end of the day, our results or our reports are based on based on our reports, there would be a decision taken whether this drug is, fit for use or not. In some cases, very, very based on the benefit risk ratio, what we have written, it will be identified that this drug should be given in a particular patient or not. So in that case, what happens? The ethical skills becomes very, very important, where only facts are being communicated. So we are not making any difference with regards to our communication and the facts. So that is very important. And you are responsible. Any medical writer are responsible, accountable in maintaining the integrity of the data. So we are not supposed to change any of the integrity of that particular data what we have obtained. That is most important. So that comes under ethical grounds. And then idea on legal requirements and plagiarism. Yeah, this is also very important. Sometimes we need to know what are the legal requirements, how to come up with an idea, and then plagiarism. So we are not supposed to copy the information from anywhere and then just put it your name. So it's not correct. So plagiarism is a concept of copying the information without giving credit to the original author. So you can copy the information and you can modify the information and give the credibility to the original author. And then you also know how much to be copied. Like, is it exactly to be copied? So there are again several concepts in the plagiarism, but you need to understand what is that as a concept as a whole. So that is one of the skills which we need to understand. Then comes managerial skills and personal skills. So here, coordination and teamwork, it is very important. Medical writer is not the person who just write everything. Okay, medical writer is a facilitator who facilitate the writing concept, but he should get information from several other people to make that medical document which is valuable. So in that way, the coordination becomes very, very important, and you should know how to do a teamwork. Okay, and you should have an interest in this particular field. So like many people join as a medical writers, but they don't continue because they don't have an interest. That is one of the important. And focus, very, very important. You should focus on technical concept, you should focus on timeline, you should focus on coordination. All those parameters are very important. And then patience, yes, because there is a high possibility that you would receive comments from everyone. Like I will show you with whom all the medical writer will be connected with or coordinated with in the later slides. But why is patience required? Because you need to consolidate comments from different people and address it to those questions. And it's not that one time it happens in one document, it can happen in multiple iterations. It means multiple frequencies can be there. Like the same person yesterday said, no, this is not making sense, please change it. And today the same contributor says that, no, my thoughts are changed now, please make it as such, as it is as per the yesterday's thought. So in that case, you need to have a patience and then take it in a positive way. And logical thinking. So this is sometimes in the corporate it is also called as 360-degree thinking. So this one is very, very important, and this is not an God's gift, but it will be learned. Anyone who comes in this particular field, right? So once they understand the concept, once they understand the requirements, then this can be adopted. So this is the managerial and personal skill sets. Then comes IT skill set. So nowadays, we are reducing manual activities, right, as maximum as possible, and we're bringing in some or the other way like IT help. So there are several tools which we can incorporate while writing the documents. So the tools required, we need to know the basics about the tools required. It could be statistical tool or writing tool or any template tool or a referencing tool. So any such kind of tools required, at least have a thought process on it. You would have not used it, that's absolutely fine, but at least you should know, is there a tool used in such kind of activities. So, and then validation details, these tools required to be validated, and what kind of on what basis these tools are working, where they helpful, and how to validate them. So that one, and implementation in day-to-day activities. So once you know the basics of these tools, then you can obviously know the third point, where to implement and how to implement it. So these were the different skill sets which are required for any medical writers who are really interested to be part of this group. So now I will give a pause before I go to the next step. So are there any questions or comments, suggestions from the team? All right. So who employs medical writers is my first next point, wherein like where to get these kind of jobs. So pharmaceutical companies, where like many pharmaceutical companies offering medical writer role. So could be small, middle, and large scale companies also have medical writer positions. Contract research companies or contract research organizations also have medical writing jobs. Regulatory services provider companies like Freyer, so we also have a medical writers job. And medical communications, wherein they are doing some scientific writing or medical marketing, such kind of companies also will have a medical writers job. Publishing companies like book publishing or any such companies. Then KPOs companies, we say knowledge process outsourcing companies, KPOs companies can also hire medical writer. And medical or scientific societies or associations, hospitals, and academic institutions. So these are the different type of companies who can hire medical writer. Then, so what do you think about medical writing as a career? Like, is it really good? Is it really gives me a pleasure? What is it all about? So if I want to choose a medical writing as a career, you definitely have to see and understand these 4-5 lines what I have written. Medical writing is an esteemed profession. So we generally don't call esteemed for every profession, but yeah, I mean, for anyone who choose a particular profession, we need to think it is an esteemed profession, because definitely we have to focus on that profession and then work. But however, medical writing is generally called as an esteemed profession because why we say like that? Keep updating the healthcare professional or even the general public about the new treatments and the this is what, like, why we called as an esteemed profession, because we are keeping updating healthcare professional. Healthcare professional could be a prescriber, means doctor, or could be a pharmacist, or could be a nurse, or any other healthcare professional. We are keeping them updated with the new treatments or new updates in the medical profession, and as well as we are also keeping general public also aware of this particular thing. So that is the reason we call it as an esteemed profession. And then, so we also, medical writing is also called as a growing and rewarding and lucrative career. So it's a growing because as every day there is a new drug is coming in the market. New drug, before the new drug comes into the market, there are several medical writers involved in it, in developing the documents required for that, authorization, or that for granting the permission to bring it to the market. So that's why we always say growing kind of, this thing. And rewarding, it's rewarding because, what I can say, it's not only on the money perspective, rewarding in the sense, it always makes you, keeps you updated with the current knowledge. And also it makes it, it's an esteemed profession. Yeah, I have contributed. For example, let's take COVID emergency use authorization. So we have worked on multiple COVID emergency authorizations. So we have given our contribution for getting those drugs for EUA certified. When the vaccines or something like that, emergency use authorization they got, then only the vaccines are given to the people. So we are proud of it. Like, it's rewarding. Like, for me, I have supported 3 emergency use authorizations for COVID vaccines. So that way it is a rewarding in the sense it makes you satisfied. And then lucrative, of course, like, it's a well-paid job, like, only when you meet the requirements of the medical writer, then it's definitely a lucrative, it is very well paid across the globe. So that's the reason it is called as lucrative career. And then medical writing is a dynamic. So you know that it's not that you are keeping only healthcare professionals' knowledge or general public knowledge on new treatments updated. it is also keeping yourself up to date with knowledge. Only when you keep yourself up to date with knowledge, and you can pass the same thing to other people. So that's the reason we call it as a dynamic career. And then medical writing is extremely positive and noble cause. So, it's extremely positive, and because it's a noble cause, we always talk about patient safety, and we contribute for this patient safety. Hence, it is called as noble cause, and it's absolutely an extremely positive career. Medical writing, more or less, tiresome and stressful job, definitely, because it's not that easy to keep yourself up to date, and not easy to convince all the target audience, not easy to understand each and every requirement. And there is a guideline change, there is a template change, there is a requirement change. Every time you need to be dynamic, and you need to be, putting your efforts and keeping the focus. So that's the reason it's tiresome and stressful. But I believe, like, when you have 4 positiveness or 4 important things which I have said, this tiresome and stressful could be, can be masked with the advantages what you have as a medical writing. So this way, like, this career is really, really good. And if you take it to take it seriously, and then working towards it, like, definitely it gives you all the expectations, or it will meet all the expectations what you keep with this career. So, like, medical writers in demand. So is this job really, there is a scope for, developing ourselves and moving from, after a certain period of time, like, is there a demand for us or not? So such kind of, questions may be there when we are in the academic field. So definitely, so medical writing is in demand. So medical writing has swiftly carved into a niche skill set in the pharmaceutical industry. So earlier, like, it was not such, like, largely grown kind of, domain, but now it swiftly, means it's suddenly, raised its requirement. So industry has realized that there is a need for specialist writers who can create well-written and well-structured document that present the information in a clear, concise manner in compliance with applicable regulations. It's not that, industry also understood that, we need to have a good writers who can write very well, and who can, develop structured documents. So that reduces their, approval time. See, if you are submitting the very well structured documents and very compliant documents, agency can approve the documents in one iteration, or getting the approval in one iteration. So if you have not written well, if the documents are not structured well, then agency give comments, you will address it 2-3 times, there's a lot of time wasted in between the process. So that's the reason, industry always look for a good medical writers. And then, as you know, that every year there is one or the other drugs will be in development, or medical devices in development, or, you can say nutritional products are in development. So definitely, the trials should be conducted, could be preclinical, clinical trials, or any other kind of trials. And then definitely there is a demand for skilled writers. So this is what I'm saying about this particular work stream is in demand. Then mostly, like, what is the compensation given for medical writers? So it is always, what I can say is, this is always depending upon your skill set, and it is depending upon your educational qualifications. But I just brought in like a couple of surveys which were done last year, few months back, and then I would want you to take you through those numbers. The average fare for medical writers in India was around 8 lakhs. Okay. Last few months back, and 8 lakhs a year. And and if you say, like, it's 388 rupees per an hour in India. So what is this? Actually, the average salary for medical writer was between, so the range between 5,81,956 rupees to 10,14,671. And here what happened is, they have calculated this, or the survey was done only for PhD graduates. Okay, so, and PhD graduates and less than 2 years or 3 years of experience. So this was the survey done. On average, the doctorate degree is the highest level of education for a medical writer, absolutely. And this compensation analysis is based on salary survey collected directly from the employers or the anonymous employees in India. So you can strongly say that like basic salary, like after your PhD, immediately if you join, as well as you can fetch around 6 lakhs rupees as your salary, the average, and the within 2-3 years you can reach around 10 lakhs. So this is what the thought process which this survey gives about. Then there was another survey which was also conducted very recently, and where the average salary was 4,27,000. But here they have not mentioned like what was the qualification they have calculated for, but they have mentioned here, like, so there were 10% of people in what you can say they were having around 2 lakhs as a salary, and median level was 4,28,000 approximately, and around 10,000 were having more than 10 lakhs as well. So probably their group of survey included, I mean, even bachelor degree and 2 PhD. So maybe that was the reason here, but they were not clear about what is the qualification they have taken into consideration during this survey. Then, so based on my experience, like the compensation of MW are provided below. So it all depends upon several parameters, as I say, like communication skills, domain knowledge, aptitude writing, and several other parameters, so the bachelor degree I've seen 1 to 2 lakhs for a beginner, and master degree 2 to 4 lakhs, and then doctorate degree like 5 to 8 lakhs was seen. I'm talking about a fresher at this point of time. So if they move ahead in their growth curve, then definitely they will have better than these salaries. Okay, so coming to challenges, like what could be the challenges for any medical writer? So the challenges are many for any medical writers, but I have just given a list of representative challenges here. So the first one is complexity of data. It's very sometimes it becomes very complex because there are a lot of parameters to be evaluated, and statistical information, so and huge data. So I mean, like it's not that easy as we think about, but the complexity of data is one of the biggest challenge. And scarcity of data or huge data. Scarcity of data is sometimes I wanted to develop a literature-based document. I'm not getting any data about this particular product. So how to develop this? That's one of the challenge, and where to go, what to do. So that kind of challenge can come to you. And then huge data. I have, for example, if I go for docetaxel to develop, when, for example, one of the literature-based data, I am seeing around 30,000 articles are available. So how to consolidate them? 30,000 articles are published on one particular drug. It's too much data. And then how to find what I want? So that's going to be a huge challenge. And then now I have a data, so I got collected everything what I require, but how to interpret? So it's not a challenge for everyone, but interpretation of data could be one of the challenge for who doesn't know clearly how to interpret the data. And then presentation of data. So many, like some of the writers, they know very well, they collect the data and then they interpret the data, but they are not good presenters. So they are technically good, they're technically sound, and then the presentation skills are less. So in that case, what happens? The presentation becomes very important challenge. And then copyright issues, like, I cannot take somewhere information and then put it here without any, credibility to the author. So that copyright issues is going to be a big challenge. You need to understand what data should I take, what data should not take. So that is important issue. And then plagiarism, I have already spoken about. Plagiarism is nothing but reproducing the data without giving any credibility to the original author. So that's not allowed. And then target audience, as like today you are writing a protocol, your mindset is fully tuned to write to an investigator. Tomorrow I'll ask you to write some descriptory information for a patient. Then you cannot use the same language what you are using for principal investigator, because patient do not understand all those concepts. So now you have to adapt yourself to write to a patient. So that's one of the important challenge. And updating anyone with the current regulations and technical aspects. So once you get into the corporate, you have been occupied with a lot of work, and you are like working every day, almost 8 hours you are occupied. So then how to keep yourself some time to uplift yourself with regards to current regulations and technical aspects is going to be a challenge. So until unless you are so systematic and every day 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the evening, I'll look for all the different, all the current updates. Until then, if you don't have that systematicity, then definitely you will not be able to update yourself. So that is one of the challenge. And then language constraints, definitely none of us are native English speakers or native English writers. Then the language constraints would be always been there with anyone. And meeting the expectations. So meeting the expectations comes into several levels: meeting the expectations of the internal manager, meeting the expectations of the client, meeting the expectation of the regulatory agencies. So it is at different levels. So how we will be meeting those expectations is very important, and that's a big challenge actually whenever we are working as a medical writer. Coordinating with multiple stakeholders, yes, it's really tough. I'll explain you in coming slides what are the different stakeholders we are communicating with. And the communication, timely communication, and then transparency in communication, so are going to be a challenge. So I wanted to communicate some of the measures to overcome these challenges as well. So but this is not a full list, but so I would like to give some thoughts on it. Domain knowledge is important, and then experience also gives you some thought process how to overcome certain challenges, because when we expose to a certain scenario, with the help of somebody or ourselves, we will tune to that particular challenge and we'll overcome of that. So that experience makes us more fit for facing another challenge. If there is such kind of scenario comes in again, we are ready with everything, like this is nothing, we can manage this. So such kind of experience will help you overcome. And proper planning, yes, planning is very important. Any activity you do, so if you are planned, then and planning and execution as per the plan would makes most challenges nullified. And the patience, you need to keep yourself calm, and then start working on it, and then it will be, sometimes even silence will be a answer for 50% of the questions. So that you need to understand. And good interpretation and communication skills. See, for example, if somebody is not very well in interpretation skills and communication skills, they have to work upon those skill sets to develop or adopt good communication skills. That helps them. And then keep updated on regulations and technical aspects. There are multiple people, they are not keeping up to date with regulations. So what you have to do, you have to spend some time every day, spend some time in the weekends, subscribe yourselves to the regulatory agency websites. They will keep sending the documents or keep sending the information, so you can read through when you have time, so that you can keep yourself up to date. Then interest and focus, these all things will happen when you have an interest and focus on this. That's very important. You should develop interest, you should develop focus, understanding the scope. Anytime you do some work, you have to understand the scope, and you have to understand what is the expectations from this. So then you can reach that. Attention to details, very important, as I already told you. So to give a consistent and good quality document, attention to details is very important. It's not that like everyone will have attention to detail by birth. It's not that, like you can develop on these skills. So then somebody, we say eagle eyes, like their own document they see one time before they sending it to the next level, then they find out 3 mistakes, and those 3 mistakes can be sorted out, and then the good quality document can be sent to the next level. And knowing about audience, should know whom this document is developed, and accordingly you can manipulate your language and then write it. And then teamwork, and you cannot be a single person. Definitely you need to know how to work in the team and how to manage the team, so that way most of the challenges can be resolved. Then role of medical writer, so it's just a small activities, high level activities I'm saying here. So medical writer who does gathering of information, organizing the information, presenting the information, evaluating the information, and interpreting the information. But all these activities, whatever medical writer does, these all should be governed by ethics. That is most important thing, because we are talking about patient safety here. We are not supposed to go beyond the boundary of ethics, and then we should not rewrite any, what you can say, the fact should be communicated. That's what I'm saying. Always you need to concentrate only on the facts. Okay, so that is about role of medical writers. Yeah, this slide will give you very, very good information as a medical writer, with whom all medical writer can interact. So that's the reason I was talking about teamwork, cross-functional interactions, coordination is very important. Why? Because the medical writer can interact with these people before the document goes to the next level. For example, let us take it from the medical contributor side. So medical writer will also interact with medical contributor to understand certain concepts, or medical writer would be one of the reviewer for document. So in that case, there is a lot of information exchange happens between medical writer and medical contributor. And so medical contributor who looks the document on medical concept perspective, whether it is making sense or not. Although a medical writer is a facilitator, but the inputs are coming from medical writer. And safety lead. Yeah, so safety lead is a role wherein this safety lead or the nomenclatures are different. Some companies say they safety risk lead, some safety expert, safety lead, safety writer, something like that. There will be a different type of designations would have been there available, but safety lead is one of the person who talks about safety information and who reviews the safety information in the document and gives his concurrence. And then multiple reviewers, could be a statistician, could be any regulatory reviewer. So those also one of the important person whom medical writer would be interacted with. Statistician, yes, absolutely, because a lot of statistical data goes into the several documents. Maybe it's a protocol, maybe it is a CSR or any other document. So statistician, there is a one person to interact with medical writer. Toxicologist, because when there are scenarios wherein no clinical studies are conducted, but there is an extrapolation of non-clinical data to clinical data. So during that time, toxicologist also will be one of the person, or non-clinical expert is one of the person with whom the medical writer will be involved with or interacting with. So very important extrapolations they would be doing it. And PK specialist, definitely pharmacokinetics related data will be reviewed by PK specialist and who knows about the actual pharmacokinetics of the product in scope. And then ethics committee, that any documents which are like protocol, ICF, CRFs, these are the documents which are developed before the conduct of the studies, and we would need to get ethical committee approval. So what happens, medical writer will share all the data. If not medical writer, if anyone shares all the data with ethics committee, but at the end of the day, if there are any comments, medical writer is to the person, is the person to address all those comments. So hence there is a communication between ethics committee and as well as medical writer. Then comes study investigators, like it can be a principal investigator, clinical investigator, study coordinator, any person who is involved in the conduct of study, the medical writer will definitely involve with. And then regulatory expert. See, for example, our dossier or our document has been submitted to US FDA and EMEA, so any other regulatory agency. Then what happens, that those documents would be reviewed, and there would, if there are any comments, they would come back to us. So then what happens, medical writer has to address those comments and then send it back to them in a finalized manner. So then there is a communication between regulatory expert and then and as well as labeling experts. Absolutely all the clinical data, non-clinical data should be going into the labeling document. Maybe you can say US product information, Indian product information, or SMPC. All those things are developed based on the clinical and non-clinical data. So thereby there is a communication between labeling expert and medical writer. So these are the different people whom the medical writer working with, depending upon what type of documents he or she develops. So that's why we call it as cross-functional interactions. So this, you all are very well aware of it. I'm not taking much time on the drug development process. So just wanted to keep where all the medical writer will be contributing. So basic research, early discovery, so preclinical. So in this case, what happens in this really like preclinical stage, non-clinical documents have been developed. Could be an in vitro or in vivo testing is done. So wherein non-clinical majority of the non-clinical writers involved here, and then it will go to an IND application for US FDA. Once IND application is approved, then clinical phase will start, wherein phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 studies are conducted. So where clinical writers are involved in writing the clinical development phase, and followed by we submit an IND or BLA submission, NDA or BLA submission. NDA is a new drug application for drugs, and BLA is a biologic license application for biologic products, wherein both submissions can happen, and after that FDA reviews them, and if there are any comments, the medical writer will address. Then FDA approves the product, then goes to the post-marketing monitoring. In the post-marketing monitoring, where all safety writers will be involved, wherein safety writing documents like PSUR, PBRR, annual reports, all those things comes in the surveillance part. So then maybe I would take another 2 minutes to complete this session. So there is another point called as common technical document. The common The common technical document is also called as CTD, where it consists of 5 modules: Module 1, Module 2, Module 3, Module 4, and Module 5. Module 1 is an administrative changes or administrative information, where it is a region-specific document, and where Module 2 will have quality, non-clinical, and clinical as the summaries. And in Module 3, overall quality information or chemistry, manufacturing, and control information available. And in Module 4, non-clinical data, and Module 5, clinical data will be available. This is how the common technical document has been scheduled, and it is well accepted by all the regulatory agencies. So this is about freelance medical writers, like when somebody willing to work as a freelance medical writing. So what are the opportunities and what are the kind of information available? So there are plenty of opportunities available as a freelance medical writer based on your skill set and domain knowledge. These would be these kind of opportunities would be available, and there are several companies even training certain people as a freelance writers and keep them ready, and as and when their support is required, they are utilizing it. And in Freyer, like we have a concept called as Freyer X, that is Freyer Extended Family. If anyone has a good writing skills and good domain knowledge, and they can register with us as a Freyer X family, and then we can take their services as and when required. So last slide being, what is the take-home message for this particular session is, so as I already told you, medical writing is a growing, dynamic, positive, rewarding, lucrative, and esteemed profession. So it's really a wonderful profession to have anyone. Definitely it requires hard work, but it is one of the very well valued system or very well valued domain. And medical writers should have all the skill sets, as I mentioned: domain knowledge, language, research, analytical, ethical, personal, managerial, and IT skill sets. And what is the big mantra for any medical writer is read more to write better. So when you read more, when you understand more, and then definitely you would write better. This is the, very tagline for any medical writer.